Hello, welcome to World Map Change Your View on the World. Part 3 I think. Yeah, part 3. So, let's get right into it with countries with red in their flags. And the shades of red represent, on the map, represent what shade, and if they're grey it means they don't have red on their flags. When you look at it, there's actually quite a lot of countries with red on their flag. So basically, India, Saudi Arabia, most of Eastern South America, Kazakhstan because it's awkward, Sweden and Finland, but then again they're exception to pretty much everything, and West Sahara, but that's not actually part of a country. It's like claimed by two different countries, so yeah. And Mauritania, and then a few other countries such as Somalia and Tanzania. But there are a couple of others. But apart from that, there are hardly any. There's really hardly any countries without red in their flags, which I think is rather weird. Now, sticking on the theme of flags, countries with blue in their flags. And if you look, there are hardly any of them. Well, in comparison, there are hardly any. Well, there's southern South America, northern South America. There's US. There's Russia and all of northern Asia. There's most, not unsurprisingly, most Oceanian countries. There's Chad. There's Democratic Republic of Congo. There's Botswana, and then there's France, England, Scandinavian countries, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, blue isn't as popular as red, but then again, blue is still fairly common in flags. And now we're going to zoom into Europe for one. Most commonly used words in this country's Wikipedia page. The most commonly used in the glorious country of the UK is devolved on the Wikipedia page for the UK, which is rather interesting. There's fishing in Iceland. There's rise in Finland. Bav in Sweden. Diseases in Norway, so they're obviously famous for diseases. Vladimir in Russia, unsurprisingly. There's Seljuk, whatever that means, in Turkey. There's painting in Italy. Sorry, I forgot what it was called. American is the most commonly used word in Spain, and Brazil is in Portugal for some reason. Families in Germany, society in Poland, Gaul in France, which I'm not surprised at really. And let's make this bigger. Principalities in Romania, I think. Yanukovych, probably a name, in Ukraine. And naturally, Pope for Vatican City. And if you want to have a bit more of a look, then pause this video here and have a look. I'll make it bigger so that you can get a better picture. There you go. Right, moving on. World's most honest countries. Reader's Digest wanted to know how honest world cities were. So they lost, in quotation marks, 192 wallets in 16 cities. That's 12 wallets in each city. So how many would be returned? Each wallet contained $50 equivalent of the local currency, as well as a name, phone number, family photo, coupons, business cards, so everything you could possibly need to get it back to the person you wanted. So the country that returned the most was Helsinki in Finland, and the second most ones returned was Mumbai in India with 9 out of 12 wallets. So if you're going to Helsinki or Mumbai, the chances are you're gonna get it back. if you lose your wallet. Still, you're still likely to get it returned if you're in New York, if you're in Budapest, because 8 wallets were returned there, and 7 wallets were returned in Moscow and Amsterdam. 6 were returned when you go to Berlin. And if you go to Ljubljana in Slovenia, which is here, even though the writings are down here. But you're not as likely to get it returned if you go to the UK, in London, where there's a 5 in 12 chance, or Warsaw in Poland, where there's still also a 5 in 12 chance. Now moving on to the Reds, in Rio de Janeiro and Bucharest in Romania, there's a 4 in 12 chance of it being returned. Same with Zurich in Switzerland. There's a 3 in 12 if you go to Prague, a 2 in 12 if you go to Madrid, and 1 in 12 if you're going to Lisbon in Portugal. So basically, if you're going to lose a wallet, if you insist on losing a wallet, go to Helsinki or Mumbai, or if you're wanting a risk, go to Budapest, go to Hungary, Slovenia, Russia, the US, Germany, or the Netherlands. And don't go to the Czech Republic, Portugal, Brazil, Spain, Switzerland, or Romania, or even the UK or Poland. So yeah, that was quite interesting in my opinion. How humans spread around the globe, the migration of anatomically modern humans. So research has shown that that people seem to spawn in what is now Ethiopia, Kenya, and Sudan area, and then they travelled across the sea from Ethiopia over to Yemen and Saudi Arabia, because there was probably a high tide then, so you could actually walk there. Some wandered to North and South America. Some wandered aimlessly into the Oceanian Islands. And then some helpless people, poor people, walked into China, and some walked into Europe, although most stayed in Africa. And as you get further away from Africa, the less people migrated there. So 65k people. I don't know what the K means. Let's just zoom in. You're probably losing half of what you can see. No, that's not very useful. But yeah. That's how the numbers are how long ago? So 10,000 years ago. 65,000 years ago. We spawned here. 60,000 years ago. They were like in Iran. And then another 10,000 years later, they were in China and Australia. And then 10,000 years after that, they'd arrived in Eastern Europe. And quite a while later, in 16,000 years ago, they'd reached Alaska. And 10,000 years later, they'd reached Argentina. So not as interesting as the last one, but still fairly interesting if you're wanting to see how long ago humans got to your country. Religion in the Middle East. So again, we're zooming into a particular area. I know it's to change world maps to change your world, but I just had to include a couple of these. Religion in the Middle East. So there's the Shiite Islam is mainly in the Iran area and of that bit, and eastern Azerbaijan. Sunni Islam is scattered around Saudi Arabia and Egypt, with most of Turkey following it. The Sunni and Shiites are in parts of Turkey mostly. Jews are mostly in Israel, or what is safely secured Israel, should we say. Christianity is mostly in Bulgaria, Georgia, Armenia, and Russia area, so not quite Middle East. But there are some in Cyprus and parts of Syria and Iran and Egypt. And then so that's like Hinduism and stuff like that, can be found in parts of Iraq and parts of Jordan and a small area near Basra in Iran, and then the rest is just no population are particularly religious in any way. Right, another world map now, where people feel most loved. So this is always a nice one. As you can see, the places where people feel the most loved are in Paraguay, in the Philippines, and in that small country there that no one cares about. But if you really actually do care about it, name's Hungary. It's Hungary. With 86+ percentage of the population who say they are loved a lot. And 65 to 45% is most of the world actually. So pretty much all the Americas and pretty much all of Europe. Then slightly down again, 66 and 55, mostly Africa. Same with 46 to 55. And then the bluey countries are like 0 to 45, which is like Northern Asia, and yeah, Northern Asia mostly. So again, if you want to feel happy, don't go to like Central Africa or Russia, pretty much. Right, next, what each country leads the world in. Again, I could go on for this one for hours, but I'm just going to go over a few of them. Canada, famous leader of maple syrup and asteroid impacts. Wow, Greenland, champion of personal space. Deadly Animals and Melonia in Australia. Raspberries and nuclear warheads, unsurprisingly, in Russia. CO2 emissions and renewable energy in China. Uranium in Kazakhstan. Movies in India, that's surprising. Emperor penguins, unsurprisingly, in what do you call it? Antarctica. Heat in Libya. So if you want to feel hot, go to Libya. I can't even get close enough to see what Britain and stuff is. Apricots in Turkey. Staying married in Peru. No, Chile. Peru, and wow. So Colombia is a leader in rain. So if you're living in Britain and you think it rains a lot, go to Peru for a change. Go to Colombia for a change. That'll get you. Again, I could talk about this one for hours, so I'm going to move on swiftly. Africa without colonization, that's an upside down one because that's how it was found. Tribes, kind of hard to understand, but I'm not gonna really talk about that one too much. Songhai is here, which is like Mali, Niger, Algeria area. If I can pick out any others. I can't really read any of the others, but I'll leave this up for you a little while so you can have a look. So yeah, and the last map of the day. World's happiest countries, national happiness rankings. I know it's kind of like most loved, but happiness instead of loved. So the happiest countries are Canada, US, Mexico, Venezuela, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Australia, and New Zealand. And that tiny country there, that I can't remember, United Arab Emirates. Those are the most happy countries. And the least happy countries are Benin and Togo in Africa. And then the average countries are Russia, China, Ukraine, Turkey, Libya, Algeria, and most of southern Africa. Not to be mixed up with South Africa, which is completely different. And Oceania mostly is also like average. So yeah, if you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe, and watch out for episode 4, where I will show you another 10 maps to change your view on the world. So yeah, I'll see you next time.